Creativity and creative thinking are tremendous, but we've all experienced times when we have needed to wrestle through some or all of the process. With that in mind, we've designed the Creative Wrestle to be a space to learn, reflect, and steal from a broad range of like-hearted creatives. We speak with artists, entrepreneurs, musicians, production directors, strategists, storytellers, and many more on their inspirational and unique approaches to the creative process. This is the Creative Wrestle with Lauren and Renee.
This episode is brought to you by Brown Fox Creative House. Brown Fox Creative House helps founders and brands turn big ideas into unforgettable impact. They take a holistic approach, blending strategy, storytelling, and data-driven creativity to launch brands, lead culture, and inspire action. With people and emotion at the centre, Brown Fox Creative House creates work that moves audiences to action. Go say hi on socials at Brown Fox Creative House or visit brownfox.com.au. Rosalie Audoin is the founder of FuturEdge Group, a boutique consultancy that helps leaders and organisations accelerate performance, strengthen leadership, and deliver successful turnaround strategies. An EMCC certified executive coach and senior leadership consultant, she combines psychological insight with behavioural profiling to unlock potential and drive results. She coaches on executive leadership programs at the London School of Economics and has worked with leading organisations including Gallagher, Sony, Santander, HarperCollins, and UNICEF.
Oh, Rosalie, it's such a joy to have you as a guest on our podcast. Before we get into the conversation, I just want to brag on you for a couple of minutes. I have this vivid memory of you and I in the back of a black cab. I don't know if you remember this. We were at a women's meeting in Westminster, and it was just before we moved to New York. And I remember sharing a black cab with you. I think I had little Ollie as a baby next to me, and we're driving past on the way home the iconic Battersea Bridge, and it was all lit up with the festoon lights, and it was just so iconic London. And I just remember looking over to you and thinking, oh my goodness, it's such a privilege to be your friend and in your world. And I just was having this reflection moment just before entering a new season of moving overseas. And I was just so grateful to have made that lovely connection with you. And because you are not only just such a wonderful human, but you are so generous with everything that you've learned, everything that you're learning. You just have this lovely generosity about you. You just want to pass it on to others. And I'm so excited that our audience is going to have a piece of your generosity and your knowledge and your learnings today. And what I'm really excited about is the goal of our podcast is about offering a bit of a tasting platter of creative expression, not just in the artistic space, whereas that's hugely important. We definitely want to learn a lot from process. But I want to expand it today and invite the lovely Rosalie to help us glean and learn from a creative entrepreneurial space and the innovation and the creative wrestle that it takes to build and grow business. So stay tuned, everyone. Stay with us. This is going to be really helpful and exciting and really just offer some additional perspectives on wrestle, on bringing through creative ideas, not just letting them be in your head, but kind of like wrestling them out into existence. So welcome, Rosalie.
Thank you for having me. That's the sweetest introduction ever. Thank you.
I could talk for hours. And lovely Lauren, I was kind of chatting about yesterday. It probably went on for an hour, and I think Lauren was like, okay, but you are
You sounded amazing.
amazing, and really the inspiration and the catalyst for me exploring my own business. And you were the first person to really showcase and model what it was to live not an alternative business lifestyle, that sounds a bit strange, but modeling that building your own business and thoughts and ideas was kind of okay and permission to do that. And this is what I've learned and this is where I've come from. And I just love that. And I know that you do that for many, many other women, particularly, but I'm sure men in business as well. So you're obviously very established in your businesses and your career. Can you talk to us a little bit about the earlier years? I have sort of this memory that you're in finance, maybe, and also what brought you to London.
Yeah, I studied finance.
Okay, good.
I'm from Puerto Rico originally. I came to London because I met my husband is French, and so he came to Puerto Rico on holidays. And then we kind of met, fell in love. We did the long distance thing for about a year and a half. And then afterwards, I was like, well, he was like, why don't you just come to London for a few months and, see if you like it or, like, let's see where it goes.
Oh, that's the trick with London. You can't
I
ever just
know,
leave. Yeah.
I know. And so I came and then 3 months in, he proposed. And then,
Go doll.
yeah. And then after that, we 6 months later, we got married.
Wow.
Initially, we were gonna move to France. That was the goal, but then we got jobs in London, and then we kinda stayed in London for now we've been married for 21 years, so it's
Wow.
been a very long time. Yeah. Um, but originally, I did study finance, and that in itself was such a cool story because I finished my studies and I found this job with this Spanish company in Puerto Rico,
Right.
and it was a startup back then. And the job that I got was like facilities management. So it was a startup. We had to find the building for the company. And then it was like a very new, like mobile phone company. So we had to get contracts, like we had to basically hire space at the top of buildings so that they can install the
Oh,
equipment for
wow.
the cellular kind of antennas and stuff like that. So that was my job, my first real
Wow.
big job. But I had studied finance. So every time a job in finance came, in the finance department came, I would apply and then they would say no. They were like, no, we need experienced people. So part of my job as well was we had a lot of expats who would come to the company and they would need accommodation. So I would also go and negotiate the contracts for them moving into the island. And when one day the CFO left that we had and a new one came, he was from Argentina and he needed a house. So I went, found 3 flats. There was one that I knew he was going to love. So we did the same thing. He came in, he looked at the flats, loved one, and he saw me negotiate the rental
Wow.
for him. So after that, he came to my desk one day and he said, "Hey, I heard you've been applying for finance positions and you're not given the opportunity." And I said, "Yeah, I know." And he said, "Okay, let's do this. I'm going to give you the opportunity. I have a financial analyst position coming up. Um, I'm going to train you for 3 months. I'm going to give you the opportunity. If after 3 months
Amazing.
you don't cut it, you can go back to your job. It's totally fine. But if you do, then I'll give you the increase, the raise, and you'll have the position."
Wow.
And yeah, and that was my entry to my actual like
Wow.
finance, work, which I did for many years. And it was amazing. I got so many amazing opportunities. I got to travel all across Latin America with them. Um, yeah, so finance. But then when I came to London, I decided actually, I don't know if I want to do finance for the rest of my life. I started working for, a not-for-profit organization. I was in Hillsong for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. I can't remember. I did my master's in NGO management because I was involved in a lot of the kind of corporate services area of the charity, so it just made sense. And then when I left that job, I started a nail polish brand, which is the most random thing I've
That's
ever done.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was I remember thinking, I want to do something creative. I'm tired of those admin jobs. I want something creative. So I bought a ticket to go to Cosmoprof, which is the biggest trade show for the
Yeah.
beauty industry in Italy. And my husband
Wow.
was like, okay. So I went on my own. And I met those suppliers that were like, "Yeah, we can do the nail polish for you. We will honor small quantities because they kind of like me." So they were like, "Yeah, we don't normally do these quantities, but we'll do it for you." And I just started the brand, so it's really interesting because when I closed that brand during COVID, because they were like, we can't do any small quantities anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for us. But I learned so much about marketing, about design, about go-to-market strategy. Like I I learned so much that I'm really grateful that I actually did that because then it led me to
Mm.
my season of a coaching, I so after I closed DL, actually before I closed DL, I studied to become a coach. And a lot of people were like, "I love what you're doing with DL. How can you teach us how to do it as well?" So I started doing marketing and stuff like that. And then yeah, that's what leads me to where I am here.
I have Okay, so many questions. But
Yeah.
one thing that I observe about you and really stands out is that you seem to have this inbuilt courage for and lean in to the unknown, but also kind of risk. Like you have like a high risk appetite. Is this something that you naturally have?
Mm.
Did someone kind of draw that out of you? Like that initial guy, like he was such a gate opener for you, like just to be like, hey, let's try something. But so not only do you have people who see that in you, but is this natural for you? Have you developed this or are you
Yeah.
terrified deep down and just kind of super confident on the outside? Like,
Okay. No,
tell us
okay.
more about this.
So there's two things. Number one, I come from a family where both my parents were risk takers. So I lived in Port-au-Prince, Haiti when I was in the 80s. Both my parents, so my dad he came from a really, really poor background. And then but he ended up when he died, he had been the minister of agriculture for his country. He
Wow.
started a
Come on.
university. He led one of the biggest industrial parks in the country.
Wow.
He was
Big
in the
stuff.
media all the time. He was an advisor to the president. So he was very, very
Boom,
driven.
boom.
Yeah, he was a risk taker. He was the definition of an innovator and a pioneer and a leader.
Wow.
My mom is the same. My mom, she came from a very poor background in Puerto Rico, and no one in her family was educated. In fact, when she told her dad that she wanted to do her master's, no, that she wanted to go to university after high school, he slapped her and told her, "You're not going anywhere,"
Oh,
Wow.
And her mom, my grandmother, literally they devised a plan for her to hide and go to uni anyway.
wow.
So I come from a family yeah, I know, people often ask who are your the people you admire. Like my parents were my
Yeah,
first
amazing.
and
Such
amazing
pioneers.
people that they really, demonstrated that you can change your life. Like there's no even though life can be really unfair, ultimately, if we have a choice to make decisions and keep moving forward to goals that seem impossible for people. So that is something that
Amazing.
I have
Wow.
in my DNA. However, I do a lot of work with psychometric tools and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And one of the markers that we look in leaders is how they process risk. And
Yeah.
again, it's spectrum. On one hand, you have people who are naturally big risk takers, which I think I am. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you'll have people who are very risk averse. So they
Hmm.
are very cautious. They don't take risks. Every decision they make has to be supported by evidence that it's going to work. It's
Mm.
it's a personality trait.
Mm.
And I have seen in my time, I've coached hundreds of people, and I can tell you that it doesn't matter where you are in the spectrum, there's a way for you to actually take risks,
Amazing.
So for
I love
me,
that.
I will fly to Italy, not knowing anyone, finding a hotel randomly. I will do that. That's
I
my
love
way
that.
of doing it. Someone like my husband, who's completely my opposite, he will still go to Italy, but he will need to know exactly where he's going, do the research. He'll probably take longer to do it, but he can get there as well. Do you know what I mean? So I think that, and that's why we were talking earlier about the power of self-awareness, like
Yeah.
knowing how you're designed,
Mm.
because it doesn't matter how like if you know how you're designed, you can get to a destination, you can take the risk, you can innovate, you can, do all the things. But if you don't know your design, then you'll either, so for example, for me, if I don't know my design, I'll take the risk, but I'm an initiator. I
Right.
get bored very easily. Like implementation
Mm.
for me, is one of the things that I can
Lauren's
start it.
laughing. You could talk to this,
Yeah,
couldn't you, Lauren?
like
Yes.
if I have to sustain something, like it's please, like no, you know what I mean? Like help me,
Harder. Yeah.
And so part of that self-awareness piece is knowing, okay, I need to have people around me. Like for example, on my team, the person
Mm.
that
Yeah.
supports me, she's an implementer, and
Great. Yeah.
she will look at the detail because detail is not my thing. I'm thinking here, like I want to achieve this, whereas someone else will be like, no, I'm not going to take the risk until I have all the details. And they'll probably be so much in the detail that they're not going to be able to on their own have that bird's eye view. So they need people around them that are going to say, wait, you're bottlenecking here. We need to
Mm.
look, elevate. So yeah, so to answer your question, I am 100% a risk taker. That's how I operate. When you're a risk taker, there are also like it could be a train wreck situation, where
Right.
you make lots of decisions without really counting the cost. I think when I started DL, it was a big if I now in retrospect, because things are always clearer in retrospect, like um I probably jumped too quickly, I probably jumped too quickly, but it was a great learning experience for me.
And this is what I love about your approach to business design and building your different brands is that you seem quite comfortable in the wrestle of ideas. And you mentioned earlier about it was a stepping stone. I love the phrase "connecting flight." That I always use that is the sense of it might not be this, but it'll probably lead to the next thing. Um,
Yeah.
what I admire about you with business design and developing brand and audience and focus on what you're providing is that you seem really, really comfortable in, I guess, what we would call research and development. You sort of trialing and piloting different ideas and thoughts as they're coming through. And what I remember a conversation you had with me in early development of my business was try everything, Renee, like try different modes, try different audiences, try different interests to see which sticks.
Yeah.
And can you elaborate a little bit further on this approach? Like, is it something that you've refined since that conversation? Is this still kind of what you encourage other people who are developing their ideas and thoughts on?
Yeah. Okay. So this is obviously in the context of business, like in the context of like having an idea and putting it out there, right? That's what we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
So and also in the context of business, because I think the process might be very different. If you're creating a piece of art, that might be a little bit different. But in the context of business, I do really believe that if you're too attached to the idea or the methodology or how you're
Mm,
going to do it, sometimes you will stop yourself from finding the real gold, So
yeah.
what I mean by that is in business, what really what really gives you this edge is how people respond to the things that you're putting out, the things that you're creating, right? So you create this art, you create this service, you create whatever you create for other people to receive it and enjoy it. And so I see a lot of business owners so attached to their methodology or the way that they come up with things that they don't get the feedback from an audience quickly enough to validate whether it's the right direction or not. So
Right.
when you put things out quickly and you test and you try different angles and you put it out, you get feedback quickly enough
Mhm.
to make decisions and iterate and keep
Bit more
designing and
agile.
improving. That's right, yeah.
Have you always seen yourself as a creative thinker, as a creative person? Have you identified as a creative? And if so, how does that play out for you? How is that part of your identity?
When I was a kid, I thought I was creative. And then when I studied finance and had jobs and became an adult, I kind of realized, oh, I'm not actually that creative. I don't know why I believed that I wasn't creative, but now for sure, I do believe that the creativity is part of that divine nature that is within every single person. So
Yeah.
I think there's two different types of people. You're either aware of it or not, like that's it.
I love that.
Yeah, and if you're aware of it, then you find what that means to you, for you, etc. And then if you're not aware of it, then you think, well, I'm not creative, but you actually are. You just have to find out what it
Yes.
is, how or what it looks like. Because creative is so many different things. It's not just maybe I can't sing, but maybe I'm really good at creating experiences with people. That requires creativity as well.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
so it's finding that unique expression that we have and being curious about discovering it because nobody is actually going to
It's
tell
good.
you. I mean, actually, my dad would always say to me, you are a gift to the world. He would say things
Aw.
like that, like you're a gift to the world.
Beautiful.
The world is your oyster. He would say things like, you're a leader, you're going to create great things, so I
Wow.
guess, but I do think that in life, there's always bumps that kind of make us doubt the things that we know are true, and then
Absolutely.
somehow, again, if we're curious, then we can discover them and unpack them. But yeah,
What would your thoughts be on creativity in an entrepreneur or in a business sense, in that kind of lens? Do you think it's different to creativity in an artistic context, or is it all the same kind of problem solving, curiosity, risk taking? Is it the same or is it different?
it's 100% the same. It's 100% the same. It's the ability to pivot. I'll give an example. So I work with this group of women who they are launching programs online. Like we have a methodology where they learn the steps to um, go to a live audience online, teach something super valuable, and then extend an invitation to join their programs. Okay. And every single time they have their plan, something will happen. Like, there's not even one exception that I've never heard someone say to me, "It went exactly as we planned." Never.
Yeah.
And so it's
It's like
that
having a
ability.
childbirth plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly, Lauren. Exactly. It's like, so some people, so you have some people that will be like, it didn't work, it was a disaster, and it didn't work, my launch failed. And then you have the other people who will say, you know what? I opened the file, it just literally wouldn't load. So I started talking and I told them through it and I told them stories and people loved it even more because they felt connected to me. Or someone will
Wow.
say, oh my gosh, I came in front of the screen and I panicked and I blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden I was just like, you know what? Let me just tell them a different story. And they completely make it up, so in business, like you have to be willing to pivot, to
Yeah.
innovate, to think on your feet, to
Mm.
receive like downloads, like of,
Right.
ooh, this just came up. Or, sometimes you're in front of a people and you get this idea, and that's the thing that the person in front of you needed to hear to say yes or to partner with you or whatever. And so and that's creativity, being open to
Mm.
that. So yeah, 100% I think that it's the same thing, even in designing a service or a product. Like, you need that kind of same creative process, right? Of being willing to try something new, to mix things up, to put it
And
out there. Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. I think there's a humility to it as well. Like we talk a lot about courage, but I think there's a humility to be wrong. I might not know everything yet. There's some gaps. And
Yeah.
I think the curiosity links in with humility to be like, okay, well, I'm going to go again,
Yeah.
you know,
100%.
um, I'm going
100%.
to dig in here again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me say something. I one of the things that will stop anyone in business is embarrassment. It's that
Mm.
idea of, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that, it's me again. I'm embarrassed that it doesn't look as polished as I know. One of the biggest pains in business that I felt when I, like, at the beginning, was the pain of showing up knowing that you're not your most refined version yet. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. In
that what
progress.
you're putting out is as good as you can make it today. But, you look at other things and you're like, "This is how I'd like to be, but I'm not there yet." But
Mm.
I need to put myself out there anyway, because I'm never gonna get there if I don't,
That's
And
right.
so
Yeah.
this kind of feeling of, it's not how I'd like it yet, but it needs to come out so that I can grow and keep evolving. So many people in business don't grow because they stay stuck in that embarrassed kind of,
Wow.
Mm.
basket. Um and to your point, humility when it comes to, so it's like, okay, I need to vulnerably put it out. But also, I think there are people that are putting things out, and they have this, like, fun desire to create, but there are people that have a conviction that what they're putting out, they're meant to create and put it out,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And so that's a completely different kind of angle or mindset, when someone is doing something like
Mm.
that. Like, but
It's a stronger
ultimate
motivation.
yeah, exactly. But ultimately, it does require, you know, just stepping out, you know?
Yes. Just do it. You mentioned about one of the wrestles or challenges early on is this embarrassment or shame. Can you unpack some more of the other wrestles that you experienced personally when you stepped out, first of all, with your initial business, but what it's grown to become? Like, what has been some of your personal and professional wrestling?
I think visibility, like, was quite a big thing for me. Putting myself out there, or being courageous to talk. Like, I'm okay to talk about my ideas with my closest circle, like smaller groups, but then I was really scared of putting my ideas out there for people to judge, or not even understanding the
Yeah.
context, or I was afraid of getting haters. That was a big thing for me. But I think ultimately, the thing for me that I realized is that one of the biggest value things that I value the most is congruence. If I want to do something and I feel, so the desire to do something and how I feel about it, if it doesn't match, then I
Right.
need to do some
Alignment.
work
Yeah.
around it. So, for example, I really want to, do speaking engagement, and be, like, speak a message, but how I feel about doing that doesn't match the desire of what I want to do. There's a problem with congruence. There's a problem with alignment. It's not going to happen, or if I do
Yes.
it, I'm going to be awkward. So I have two choices. I have three choices. The first one is to push myself to do it. It's going to be awkward for everyone because I don't know if you've ever experienced someone they say something, but like you're like, it just doesn't feel right, like there's
Mm.
something, you don't know what it is, right?
Something off. Yep.
Yeah. The second option is not to do it at all because you're paralyzed. And then the perfect option is to really take the time to gain that alignment, to, to really unpack why my feelings not aligned with my desires.
Mm.
And that takes work. Because you have to go inside of your beliefs, what you believe about yourself, what you believe about your
Yeah.
purpose, all those things. And then when you're able to create that alignment, then it's really easy to go and get things done. So I think that at the beginning, I did a lot of things that were really not aligned. I followed, yeah, I followed strategies, or I don't know. I followed ways of doing things because other people were saying that's what you should do, or
Right.
where actually there was no real there was no alignment for me. And this life is amazing. Like, you end up finding your way, but that foundational piece of alignment, of finding congruence, of really being aligned, that your intentions and your emotions are together, then you're able to be more grounded. And then what you say has more resonance. People really can resonate with it
Yeah. Wow.
because it comes from a place of truth rather than,
Mm. Yep.
you know,
It's
yeah.
authentic.
Yeah, yeah.
I imagine that it has to that comes out with other people helping you with that awareness and slowing down enough to ask yourself questions. Like, so we talk a bit about the design process of
Yeah.
like business design, but also creativity, in an artistic sense, the design of exploring and then analyzing. It's not just putting something out there, but it's analyzing, like, is this right? Is this done? Is this refining? And my thought is that that often needs to happen not in a vacuum, like not in an echo
Yeah.
chamber of your own thoughts, but having
Yeah.
trusted team, whatever
Yeah.
that looks like around you, um, to help with that refining. Is that your experience? You mentioned earlier that you have people who help with the gaps that you have, but in terms of awareness and refining, who do you bring around you to help?
I I mean, it's the analogy that I have for that is, if you're a fish in the water, you don't know that you're wet.
Mm.
Like, you're a fish in the water, that's all you know, that's all you see. You have no idea there's the possibility of you not being wet in the water. You don't even know you're wet. And so
Good.
so that's awareness stage, I think that's why I love coaching, because
Mm, mm.
I'm able to see something that the person doesn't see, because I'm looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah,
I'm not in the water with them, you know what I mean? So I
that's
think
good.
that definitely having people around you that have a different perspective. I value a lot having people that have done what I want to do,
Yeah,
because their input will be way more valuable than everyone has an opinion. Everyone has an opinion. But ultimately, if I want to design a building, I want someone who's designed one before me. I want someone
yes,
who knows how to do it, that can be specific about, these are the challenges you're going to find. Avoid doing this. Make sure you check this. When you finish, do this before, after, during. They have insights, that because they've been there, done that. If I ask someone who's random, what they're gonna tell me may sound very good.
yeah,
Everyone has an opinion, but it doesn't mean that it's what I need to hear to
right,
achieve my goal. And so that's why I believe that mentorship and coaching are powerful, because for example, for me, I've never built a multi-million dollar business, but I've had enough touch point and coaching sessions with people who have built million dollar businesses to know what are the challenges that someone will have when they're in that situation. So again, it's finding people around you who have the right perspective, the right exposure that are going to
Great.
help you in that process. But then having said that, I also believe that there's an element of, again, it's that whole thing with congruence. It's you seek external guidance because it's wise, but you also have to trust your inner guidance, and sometimes you will have, and that again, that whole thing about partaking in that divine nature that we have, right? It's like, okay, there are things that are created that have never been created before, and
Yes.
so if we're constantly seeking external validation, sometimes we'll miss the opportunity to
Mhm.
bring to give birth to something that's completely new and different and fresh,
So
that
good.
other people don't have a perception of it, right? And I do really believe that a lot of creators don't give themselves enough space to receive that insight, and they don't trust it enough. They don't trust their gut enough.
Mm,
And sometimes, that courage is, doing something completely no one's done it before. It doesn't make sense, but you have to have that certain if you have that certainty and that grounding, it's
mm.
completely different to just doing it and then seeking external validation. So do you know what I mean? So I really, after so many years of the work that I'm doing, I've seen people do things in so many different ways that it's really difficult for me to say there's one way to do things. There
Yes.
isn't, right? Like it's by design. It's knowing who you are, knowing what you're meant to create, understanding that the way that you will do it might be different to the way I would do it, but ultimately there's a path for you. And then also seeking that mentorship for the execution, for the specifics, you know what I mean?
I love I love that so much, Rosalie, because it's, people always talk about the balance, but I think it's that balance between consuming support and help and then actually saying, you know what, that is helpful for certain elements, but there is a knowing in me that I need to actually bring this
Yes.
into existence, even particularly if it's not done. If it does, there's nothing like it out there. Now, there's not much of that these days. Like there is so much that is created, but there is, yeah, that knowing inside of yourself that, you know what, I might not be able to explain it fully yet, but I know this has to be birthed. I know
Yeah.
this has to exist. Yeah, no, I love that. So obviously, when you're building something new and creating and innovating, there is going to be some constraints and challenges. How do you keep yourself motivated? Like, what are some of your tips and tricks that help you to kind of push through when there's constraints or something that's not as smooth as you'd hoped?
I think that's why, coming back to the whole thing about congruence, is having a really strong understanding of the intention for why I'm doing something, right? Like
Yeah.
if I'm strongly connected with my why, and sometimes, it's hard to articulate the why, but like what is my real intention for doing something? When I'm
Right.
clear on my intention, because I see a lot of people building and their intention isn't, I want to create something beautiful, or I want to impact lives with this creation, or I just want to create because I love the process of creating. Like I see a lot of people creating because they want to prove something to someone,
Mm,
or because they are
yeah.
afraid that they're not good enough, or because they think that if they don't push, they're not lovable, or because, so that's what I mean by congruence, like really aligning my intention, my motives for
Mm,
creating something
it's
with the
good.
real intention, like with the process and the outcome that I want. And when that is congruent, I think it's so much easier to overcome challenges and to keep moving when things don't because things don't always work, or when you get rejected, or you get a hard no on something that your heart was set on. Like, it's so much harder to keep moving forward when there's no alignment with your intention, you know?
Mm.
And so for me, when things don't work the way that I want, or where I find a challenging situation, I go back to my okay, why am I doing this?
Great.
Like, because sometimes I will fall in those traps as well, right? And so I have to keep myself in check. The other thing that I was gonna say was that I've gotten into the habit of only comparing myself to myself. So for
Mm,
me, progress is, and I learned this from this amazing coach. His name is Dan Sullivan. I measure myself against myself. I
great.
only measure myself against myself, right? So 3 months from now, I want to look at where I was today.
Great.
5 years from now, I want to look at where I was today, and so documenting what I'm doing, where I'm at, how I'm thinking is so crucial, because then I can go back and look at who I was today, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and that really tells me whether I'm growing and advancing or not. The problem is that most people, what we do is that we look at the future and we're like, oh, this is who I want to be in the future, but that's not, you can't measure who you're gonna be in the future. Like, that's
Yeah,
not
so good.
you know? So I look back. I'm like, okay, I look at, for example, who I was when I started DL, like the nail polish brand. I look at myself with a lot of love and kindness, and I'm really grateful for who I am today, you know?
Mm,
I look at the way I think today, why I'm doing what I'm doing today. Like, when I started DL, I wanted to prove myself that I could do something creative and that I was worthy of having a brand or whatever. You know what I mean? I look back and I'm like, oh, that's really cute. But I'm really grateful that today I don't think that way anymore. My
yeah.
motivations are different. So I think being grounded in that way also helps when things don't work out. You know what I mean? Because then you're constantly aware that you're evolving, you're growing, and that even though things are not the way you wish them to be, you're on a journey for the bigger things that you dream of. And I am also very good at thinking about where I want to go, the things I want to do, the impact I want, and asking me myself why, because
Mm,
again, I keep coming back to congruence.
yeah.
So there's congruence. You've talked about courage and being grounded and having knowing what your why is and having mentors and having that inner conviction. What else is there? You've worked with so many successful people, you've coached people, what other traits, the common traits that you see in those people who are, you know, doing the things that they want to do and they're doing them well? What are the traits or skills or even just practices? What is it that they have in common?
Okay. One of the big things that I see and that I really wanna help people like shift change, because it's one of the biggest things that determine when someone is really gonna be successful or not. It's how much they back themselves, right? So
Yeah.
how much they believe. So, we talk about believe in yourself and it sounds cute, but no, no, no. I'm talking about, I come from a like Christian background
Mhm.
where you're encouraged to have sometimes some religious lingo that sounds very humble and beautiful, but is not necessarily authentic. And for example, this belief that, I only give God the glory, it's for God's glory, and I'm this little person and it's all God, and that's very cute. But when you're a leader, you have to kind of understand that greatness is within you, right? Like, it's like, when I walk somewhere, I want to carry that presence and that greatness. Like, it's not external from me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so I feel like the people who like the people that I admire that do really well in their craft and what they're doing, there's this level of embodiment of greatness that they accept and that they display. It's this authority and this like beautiful, I am the one. I am the one to make a difference in this industry. I am the one
Mhm.
to do the
Sense of
most beautiful
purpose.
thing,
Yeah.
and not like, oh, well, God willing. No, God wants. Like, you need to step into that presence that is
Come
gonna,
on.
I need when I walk into a meeting, like, I have to walk in knowing who I am in that room, you know? And I have to not be ashamed to say that I carry the wisdom, and that when I open my mouth, I know that I'm a vessel, and so the power is gonna come out of my mouth, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah.
But a lot of people are like, they think that and I really do truly believe that being humble, in my definition, is to be willing to do this, because it's
Mm.
harder to do this than to
Yes.
stay and just to, you know. And so, yeah, so that's the one thing that I see, that the people that do really well, they just are okay to be the one, you know? And they
Mm.
know in whose name they come, if they're believers, and if not, they still really truly believe in the
Mhm.
power of their creativity, or the art that they're doing, or their capacity to deliver. But it's that self acceptance of the
Mm.
power that is within them, basically. It's, I don't know how to articulate, but it's like that. The other thing that I see is that is powerful when it comes to business, to art, everything. It's not being afraid to ask,
Mm.
and asking for what you need, but also asking for the money, like to sell, right? I know so many amazing people who have a great service, a great product, and they just put it there, and they're like, look at it, just look at it, and I'm like, what are you doing? You know, like, you have to be,
It's
you
good.
know, like, one of the verses that I love in Proverbs 31 verse 18, it says, she makes sure her dealings are profitable, so
Mm.
you don't just create beauty and then display it. That's not like that. You don't have a business, you have a hobby. Like, a noble woman knows that her creations are worth, her dealings are worth being profitable. And so she puts them out there, and she claims what it is, and she asks for the sale,
Yeah.
and and I see, and that is something that I'm so passionate about. I could talk about this for hours. That it's honorable to exchange the value that you're providing for money. It's noble to
I
sell,
love
to
that.
exchange that value. If you're creating art, if you're creating, and it's also noble to price your creation at a price that is worth the work that you put out, right? That is worth the time that you put into
Mm.
the work. And so I find, this is something that I work with a lot of women who are so smart, they're so talented, they're so creative, they're so amazing. And when it comes to selling their art, or exchanging money for the value that that they've put so many hours in for their beautiful creations, they just fall flat, and they just take scraps because they just afraid of asking.
This is really, really key. And I love that you've asked this, Lauren, is because the wording that you're putting around this, and I hope there are beautiful artists and service providers and people in hospitality, all of that listening, because the wording around worth, like what is this worth? What is the hours that you've put in?
Mm.
Also, what is, sometimes to produce something, there's been study, there's been
Absolutely.
mentorship, there's been therapy that people have gone to so that they're able to be whole and bring forth these amazing works. And so,
Yeah.
um, I love that. I love the wording you're using. It's honorable, it's noble, it's to
100%.
really be slow and intentional about the selling and pricing, and
Mm.
because this is a huge part of it.
It's so hard to do. I
It's
find it
so hard.
really hard.
It is, it is. I'll tell you why it's hard. It's because, our worth is never gonna be like it. I hear people say, you need to charge what you're worth. And I'm like, no, because your worth is way bigger. Like, there's no one could ever pay what you're worth, right? So there has to be a separation between your art and who you and your identity, right? Like who you are, that has nothing to do, what you create is what you create. But there's this mindset that it's not honorable to ask, or it's not honorable to charge. The minute you charge, it devalues your art. Or the minute you receive money for it, it's just awkward. It's just awkward. It makes you feel, it cheapens it. But that's not true, because if you look at, I have a friend who she runs these beautiful she does art exploration events, right? And so she'll meet an artist, hire a gallery, put the art out, and people will come and look at the pieces, and then obviously they'll buy. Some of the pieces are 20,000, 50,000, and but then she will work with other artists that are even better, and then their pieces are like 200 pounds, and I'm like, what are you doing, right? So it's really honoring the fact that you put everything that you had, you poured so much of you in there.
Yeah.
And honoring the fact that it's worthy of blessing someone else. And the person who buys your art, that pays a lot of money, they will value it so much more than
That's
if they
right.
only pay 200. Like I have a client, she helps people with that, who have diabetes. And these are people that go to the GP. Her clients are people who go to the GP, and they have extreme diabetes, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And then she has this methodology. She used to be a GP. She That this new thing where she helps, studies the glucose level. She has people on a plan, on a journey. People in her program, they lose 20, 40 kilos. It's crazy. They get
Wow.
crazy results. Okay. Now, people pay her £3,000 for her program. The
Wow.
person will go to her and pay £3,000 because they have diabetes. They pay because they get her attention. The service is exceptional. They get results. You know what I mean? So then someone else will just go to the GP and still have their problem. So,
Yeah.
which one would you rather? Like, if I have a
Absolutely. Yeah.
problem that I really want to solve, I'd rather pay 3,000 and know that I'm really looked after, that the person's really caring about me. They have a plan for me. They're going to monitor my progress, versus going to the GP who's going to be like, oh yeah, no, you just need to take insulin and you're fine. Don't eat sugar. This person's going to be like, no, I know. This is why you still have so many cravings. This is why you still crave the cupcake. Even if you know you can't have it because you have diabetes, and she's gonna help you. So it's an elevated experience that is
Yeah.
worth the money that you're spending, right? When she started working with me, she was charging really low prices, but then she would get a lot of people who would come and they weren't serious about doing the work, you
Yeah.
know? So
They
again,
find value to it because it's high.
yes. So there's this unconscious thing in our brain that if we pay a lot of money, we're gonna get good service, and we're gonna
Mm.
get it's a higher value experience, right? And so why is your art not a high value experience? Like, why would you want to create something that doesn't
Mm.
give the person who's gonna, explore it or engage in it or have it in their house? Why would you not want them to feel this elevated
Sense of
emotion
value.
when they have your art? So and then the other thing as well, which you said, is celebrating wins. Like,
Mm.
one of the things that I have found working with women and for myself is, when I have a win, I used to go to the next thing, like, oh great, yeah, we closed the deal, okay, let's move on, and okay, next thing, right? And I have found that when I learned the art of celebrating the good things that happen, like really taking the time to celebrate, like taking my family to dinner and celebrating and marking the fact
I
that
love
something
that.
good happened, or
Yeah.
going out with a friend of mine and let's go to a spa, why? Because something good happened and I need to celebrate it. It marks this kind of moment that increases my confidence, but also it's like showing gratitude, for the good things that happen. And when we show gratitude for the good things that happen, more good things happen, like, this
Mm.
is the position of our heart to receive more. So, yeah, these are the three things. It's like being okay to be the one. Like, I am the one to do this work. I am the one to create this art and put it out there and be compensated for it. Secondly, it's being open to
So
receive the money,
motivating.
you
Right?
know, receive the money. Like, at the beginning of the podcast, you said all these beautiful things to me, and I was sitting there. I was like, oh, I was receiving them, like it's just
Yeah.
being able to receive and
Yes.
it's like words, it's money, it's and then the third thing is learning to celebrate the things that happen and not just moving to the next thing, but taking a moment in gratitude for the things that happen, because
Absolutely.
we know, like any business owner will tell you, when you have one win you had 10 rejections, or you know what I mean, like
Oh, yeah. We have, forged that win. You know what I mean? Like, we have forged our
Yeah.
way towards absolutely. I was celebrating a win that Lauren had, but I heard it wrong. So I thought it was the big thing that was coming her way, but it wasn't, and
She thought it was the big book deal, but it was a book for a client, I mean, illustrating book for a client, which is also exciting, but it's not the big win that she thought was coming.
I went there.
You were very excited for me.
yeah.
But
Well,
no, big on celebration.
that's a big win as well,
It
right?
is, it definitely is,
Yeah.
yes.
And and my kids, I'm like, something good happens. My son, he did his GCSE exams this summer, right? And he did really well. And to be honest, even if he didn't do well, I would have celebrated, because he worked so hard. But he did really well. We went out to my son's a foodie, like, he likes to go
Love
to nice
that.
restaurants. We went to a restaurant, we celebrated him. It's like this thing of, like, the good things that are happening in our lives, we need to take a moment and celebrate them, and that's
Mm.
how we give glory, right? This is how we
Yes.
we 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 express our gratitude for the good things that happen, and we acknowledge them, and we take a moment to receive and process, right? Something good happened, right?
Yes.
And then we move on to the next thing, because there's always something else.
And
But
it's
yeah,
often those people at that table who have helped.
yeah,
They've watched us do that. They've watched the late nights and all of those. Yeah, so it's good for them to celebrate as well.
exactly.
It's part their win.
I think it also helps you to remember that you've had wins. I think it does. It is
Yes.
that kind of
Yes.
like, you can reflect on, "Oh, I celebrated those," and I think you might easily forget them if you don't make a big deal of
Yes,
them.
there is progress. We are
100%.
moving
I
forward.
forget. I forget. I completely forget. And in my darkest moments, that I think that life is about to end, and, like nothing good is happening.
Catastrophizing.
Yeah. Then I need to remember, I need to
Yeah.
remember, yeah, this happened and this happened. And remember, when this happened and we thought it wasn't going to happen, but it did. And then we did that. It's just, yeah, it's a good thing to
So
celebrate.
what's next for you, Rosalie? Like, what are you excited about? What's coming up?
What's next? I've been asking myself this question through this summer. I like currently I'm doing a lot of different projects, and I feel really called for the next year, few years, to kind of narrow down a little bit what I'm doing
Okay.
and work more with like specifically with women that are building businesses. I mean, it's been really tricky for me, because I work with amazing executive people in the corporate world,
Mm.
and it's been amazing, and it's been a rich experience, because the corporate world and the entrepreneurial world, they're completely different, like
Yes.
yeah. So it's been great, but then I feel like that season, I'd like to work with more women in business. I'd like to see more women who have their businesses or a mission or a movement really amplify it, articulate it in a way that so that more people can find them. Yeah, so I want to do more of that work, and
Amazing.
I want to teach people women how to sell, how to sell elegantly, without feeling
Yeah.
salesy or pushy. Like, that's something that I'm passionate about. How to talk about your craft in a way that doesn't get people glare, but like that gets people interested and want
Mm.
to engage. So yeah, so I'm doing quite a few projects in that direction that I'm really excited about. So
And
that's
if people want to know more about what you do, I know you also have a podcast. How else can people kind of lean into what you do and how you communicate and how you draw that out of people. So I'm sure there's lots of people listening. It's not just businesses, but could be
Yeah.
creatives and selling and, so
Yeah.
how can they learn more about what you do?
Yeah. So my website is the easiest way, rosalieaudoin.com, or my Instagram account, Rose Audoin. Yeah. But definitely my website. Yeah.
We'll put all that in the notes.
The notes.
Rosalie, this has been so rich. I have definitely learned a lot. I can see Lauren's kind of just
I've been challenged.
processing and thinking it all through, which is amazing. Thank you so much for being so generous. There is like hundreds more questions I would love to ask, but you have you seed a lot of fabulous thought and perspective, and I think that is such a gift. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Welcome to the B-side.
Okay, we have just spoken with the lovely Rosalie, and can I just say that was so inspiring, encouraging, I think also a bit challenging, which
definitely.
is what we want in our lives. We don't want to just be cruisy. We want people to, to niggle and to pull out some thoughts and ideas and, I could do that better. I could tweak that. I could adjust. I think for me, alignment and congruence really stuck out. I think I love that thought because for me, it's really about that God design in your life. We each have that. It doesn't mean that we have only one area that we're experts at. I think most of us are hybrids, and we have we might have business and creativity and artistic and sporting and all these type of facets and layers. But where the real gold comes out and that flow, I think she was talking about flow, is when we can have personal awareness and growth in the things that really align with our design, our interests, our strengths, and there's a different ease to it.
Yeah, and authenticity.
And that's absolutely authenticity. Yes, absolutely. And that's what I really think that's what I'm pursuing in my own endeavors and who I help and how I help them is really understanding that God design on my life. And it just really clicked again of helping people articulate and have greater awareness in their own endeavors it was just really validated with what she was talking about. What about you, Lauren? I wonder if that risk area was something that was highlighted to you. Is that
yes, definitely. She's
something you could talk to?
She's such a risk taker and she has that boldness. It is so inspiring, and it is so important to the creative process, just that willingness to take a risk, and maybe it will work, maybe it won't, and it's going to be okay if it doesn't work, and we'll try something else. And she just seems to do that, but on steroids. She's taken just seems to have done that a lot.
Incredibly so. What I loved is she talked about a family of origin, that they did have that element, but she also had to find that in herself. And I think it's not just the family you're born into, but some of us need to sort of pursue that, even if that's not who we kind of grew up around.
And another thing that she said that stood out to me, or it wasn't so much a thing that she said, but it seemed to be a skill that came through in what she was saying, is that she seems to be really good at defining the problem. And I think that can make someone, it can make you arrive at a solution faster when you have real clarity around what that problem is that you're trying to solve. So if she's working with her clients and she can immediately, diagnose the problem or see where their friction points are, you can see how that skill that she's obviously honed enables her to provide really effective solutions for them. So I thought that was that really stood out to me about Rosalie.
She's an incredible thinking partner.
And the stuff with backing yourself, Nate, I was thinking about you with your music, your work in the music industry and working with artists and being a musician yourself. I'm sure that resonated with you. What did you take from that?
Yeah, it's such an important thing that my dream and wish would be that all of us would be able to just grasp that and get a hold of that from the very get-go, and because we would just all be set for success and have so much more confidence in ourselves. But like the The
Yeah.
reality is, and I can even speak from my own experience, where I remember the very first time I ever got asked to work on a project for someone, and it was like not like a mates and rates kind of thing. It was like an actual, like a outside, said, hey, heard your stuff, love it. What do you charge? And I'd only ever done like sort of family and friends kind of thing. So, you sort of naturally just you just do it on the cheap and all that. But then I was like, oh, I don't really know. And I remember like going away and like sort of doing numbers and go, well, realistically, I want to earn X amount per hour, but no, I can't charge that because I don't have this massive,
I
big,
can't charge
impressive
what I'm worth.
portfolio. Yeah, no, I can't do that. So then I remember the feeling and thought of, I kept scaling back and scaling it back to the point where I think the numbers, and it's like shocking and, I'm horrified, but the person that got the deal of a century. And it was just like,
Yes.
oh, like, yeah, I'll just do it for a couple $100, so thanks so much for doing that. And you think you're doing this great service, but you're just undermining yourself and you're actually devaluing yourself. And looking
Definitely.
back, as I said, I just made myself look cheap. And there's no flat rate, there's no industry standard. So everyone's kind of just
Yeah.
pulling these numbers
So tough.
out of their own head and going, what do I think is fair? And, everyone, especially if you're a bit more vulnerable and timid, you kind of go, I'm just going to lean on the lesser side because I don't want to either scare away the work because maybe I just need the money, or I want the work experience. And
this is such a massive topic. This is a wrestle for entrepreneurs and business owners, and particularly in the artistic space and creativity is having other voices speak in and challenging mindsets around value and pricing, because it's very difficult to wrestle this through with yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
And so trusted others, sometimes that's a spouse, a good friend, someone else maybe who's further along and has done this wrestle themselves and has probably resentment in this area, but can actually speak kind of a solid voice into play. I wouldn't let anyone speak, just anyone speak to this space, but definitely having those trusted voices that say, would we do that? Like, is there, when you add up this and this and this and this, it is this is part of your worth. And I think it's an incredibly important topic to tackle.
it was interesting because you do get some people, like I had times where people would then go, oh, thanks so much, I can't afford that right now. And you go, okay, but at least I stood my ground and I know what I'm worth. But then I did get times where people went, yep, great, thanks, let's lock it in. And you go, okay, great.
Yes. And you're actually setting a precedent for other people. People talk and, your work spreads, all those kind of things. And so even if it's a no from one person, it'll be yes from another. And it's an anchor that you need to have.
Can I even say, from my personal, like even mental health and stress through it all, when I took on those when I did a couple at the beginning, the cheaper jobs, and knowing that's like, I've been going at this for ages and this is barely even worth it, it builds this like resentment, it builds this stress because you're just like, this is going on too long and I'm making no money and
it's not
I'm making no
sustainable.
money. So no, and it just stresses you. It makes the entire process so unenjoyable.
Yes.
It's like, it's almost like, if I could just go back to younger Nathan, like shake and go, you love doing this and, don't do this because it doesn't work out for anyone.
And I think sometimes we forget, this is actually something Rosalie taught me when we knew each other in London, is there's actually a lot of people out there. There's a lot of business. There's a lot of people who need things. And so the flip side of this is your marketing and your communication. So you've got to find those people and be able to profile what it is that you do really well. And so there's this hand in glove with the clients that you want and also what you can provide. And so reminding myself of that a lot is there's a lot of people out there. And it's not just locally. I mean, we're here in Brisbane, Gold Coast, but actually we have access to the globe and to think a bit more globally. So local context, but globally is an important part of that when you want to kind of grow what you're doing.
Yeah, I loved Rosalie's thought. And Renee, I wondered what you thought working with entrepreneurs and being an entrepreneur yourself, about her thoughts on the traits and what it takes to be successful in that area.
Absolutely. What I'm growing in myself all the time is challenging my own mindsets, but actually helping understand language that people can connect with to challenge their own mindsets, because often we can tell ourselves myths on this journey. We can overemphasize things or underplay things that really matter. And so working with entrepreneurs is a balancing act, because they'll be high visionaries. There'll be a sense of really what they want to achieve. But then there's this element of not bringing them all the way down to the constraints of every single layer of reality, but helping to find that, I don't love the word balance, but helping to find that wrestle in them, that path that can actually balance out the vision with what it's actually going to take in reality, the strategy and the planning around that. So allowing space to adjust and to challenge and to have truth tellers around you in the most kind way, right? You don't want these people just pointing out like all the gaps and all the faults and all the issues, but finding those voices that have this beautiful intersectionality of encouragement, so putting courage into someone's heart, but also like, okay, so how are we going to move forward? Like, what is it that we need to do? When are we going to get that done? How are we going to fund that? You know, who else do we need around us in terms of the team? Entrepreneurs are incredible, but sometimes they're just wearing lots and lots and lots of hats because you're in pioneer land. And so as you grow, you need to start to find other people to wear those hats, particularly that complement your strengths. So really understand, what is it that only I can do, and I'm energized and I'm, excited about it, and I have a skill set in that, and then finding partners in the journey who can complement that.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that I've learned from Rosalie, and something that I kind of try and help with those that want to kind of ask me along the journey with them.
Yeah, it's an amazing thought, because it takes a real it's a skill to have that sort of humility, especially as an entrepreneur, to go, you know what, I can't do it all. I don't know everything. I'm very good at what I do and I have these skill sets, but I still require someone else to help me where I don't have those skills. And that's the missing piece of the puzzle for me to be able to move forward. But it takes a real maturity to be able to realize that, but then actually act on that and listen to it, rather than just having someone telling you it's all well and good to have someone tell you, hey, we should really do this, but to actually take that on and go, oh, that's not the way I think and that's not the way I do things, but I'm going to trust this person.
Yeah. And I think the other side of that is what I'm even learning with all of these conversations, because this is all learning for me, is that I'm really, really curious to learn artistic and creative minds. Lauren has been an incredible help to me in this space, because we think very differently, but we actually have very similar goals. And so it's coming at it in a different way, but there's this lovely complementary aspect to it. And I think what I'm really passionate about is creating a space, it's often on Zoom or across the table, where people feel safe enough to be vulnerable and to be like, hey, this gap, I just can't seem to move past this, or allowing someone to point out a gap, allowing someone to point out, you've got your tag up. I don't know if you can see it at the back, but like, I'm not putting shame on you about that.
How can you see that?
Yeah. So she's so safe with me. She's like, oh, really? No. And saying, I'm not putting shame on you about this. You're not the problem, but this is a problem that we need to solve. Yeah. Can you add into that, Lauren? Because we are super different, but there is a way that we're wrestling through working out your strengths, my strengths, because we've got the same goals.
Yes. It's been so, this whole experience of doing this podcast has been so good, working with you and seeing how you work, and it is quite different to how I work, but similar to how I'm the opposite to Femi, my husband. It's just you complement each other and you provide those strengths. And I have noticed, just in reflection, most of the friendships that I don't know if I'm attracted to or I attract them, I seem to have that oppositeness. I don't know the right word.
Same with me.
But I seem to attract the people
Opposing
that have the strengths that I want. And I don't know. I don't know whether I look for it subconsciously or something, but it is beautiful when you can have those relationships that challenge the way you think or encourage what you're doing and say and can help you identify those, those weak points or whatever it is. I find that really valuable.
I think Nathan's spot on though with that aspect of humility. I think as I'm getting older and older, I'm in my early 40s, just for those playing at home. Humility is a daily ingredient that I need to make sure is in every layer of my life, and going a lot slower, like not producing and not delivering and not getting out the door, but just, like taking the time, like she was talking about, is aligning with what it is you're doing. And sometimes that's a little bit slower, but it's also like this grain of humility of going, okay, I don't actually know everything. I have some strong thoughts and strong opinions, but like, what am I missing here? Who else can speak into this? Who else do I need in my life? And that does take vulnerability and humility.
Definitely.
Yeah. Some great reflections, guys. Thanks so much for joining us on the B-side of the Creative Wrestle. Bye, Nathan. Bye, Lauren. And we'll catch you next time.
See ya. Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Wrestle.
Don't forget to subscribe, find us on socials, and share with your friends.